All right, good afternoon, everyone. So this
Okay, good
session is
afternoon.
going to be about micro-credentials and career pathways at Harmony. I'm Dr. Burak Yilmaz, Director of Leadership Development at the Central Office in Houston. So let's move forward. So you might be asking, what are micro-credentials? It's absolutely normal if you haven't heard of them before because they're fairly new. Um, Micro-credentials are, so we're going to dive into it, but they are an important part of Harmony's professional learning culture. Because at Harmony, we value two things. One, from teacher to any level, principal, superintendent, we value our educators and we want everyone to have an opportunity to grow in their practice, improve their practice, and along that pathway, um, make themselves available and prepare themselves for future advancement opportunities. Because whenever we have a job opening, especially if it's in leadership positions, administrative positions, finding people from outside is always a big risk. So instead, we value our own educators, looking at our most effective teachers, most skilled teachers, and see where there's a good fit for them to grow in their career within Harmony. So micro-credentials definitely make that easier uh, because they help develop the skill set of everyone in their roles and make themselves marketable and ready for other growth opportunities within Harmony. So micro-credentials and career pathways. So this work actually started back in 2008. So it's not a new initiative at Harmony. This is, I think, year 7. We might be going into year 8. We've formed a partnership with an organization called Bloomboard. And Bloomboard is a learning design firm, essentially. And they started out as a coaching, a digital virtual coaching platform for teachers. And then they ventured into writing, curating, and creating micro-credentials to support teachers, essentially. Um, that are aligned to evaluation frameworks, et cetera, et cetera. So back in 2008, Harmony was a grant recipient, federal grants called Teacher Incentive Fund. And as part of that grant, what we tried to do is really clarify all of the different roles a teacher can take on as a leader while they remain in the classroom, additional duty roles to improve their curriculum skills, their mentoring skills, their maybe department chair leadership skills, any kind of uh, added responsibility, leadership responsibility a teacher could take. We looked at those roles and really identify what are some of the most foundational and critical competencies for these roles, and how do we build those competencies with our teachers to make sure that when they step into those roles or as they step into those roles, they can develop and grow their skills instead of finding limited opportunities, trying to figure out everything on their own and getting frustrated and burnt out, because that was happening a lot um, in the past. So we clarified those leadership roles and started um, determining those competencies and designing learning activities and meaningful portfolios as to how an educator can learn and also demonstrate their competencies in these domains. So it started out with a map like this. Um, Obviously, teacher is the starting point, but we also considered out of classroom instructional leadership roles, teachers as they prove themselves to be effective in the classroom, Within a few years, they can start taking on additional roles like being a curriculum writer, a mentor teacher, a PLC leader, department chair. So there's lots and lots of other opportunities. And this is not a current up-to-date career map. So some of those roles may have changed their names or shifted, but a lot of them are still in existence today. And over time, sometimes teachers leave the classroom and take on other support roles outside of the classroom, like being a counselor, coordinator, or even like going to school leadership, being an assistant principal, a coach, a principal, and there are many other opportunities because we are a very large organization. So within these opportunities, identifying what are the most critical roles essential for success and how can educators learn, practice, and master these skills so that they can be productive, effective, and successful in these roles, either when they step into these roles or as they start these roles. So in that sense, these are actually like both for new educators and returning or experienced educators, because even if you have like um, X number of years of experience, we can't learn and know everything. There's always advancements, and sometimes our roles shift and new responsibilities are added. So it fuels that continuous learning and growth. All right, so micro-credentials, a lot of times people ask, so why should I earn a micro-credential? Um, and when you start working on a micro-credential, it's actually a process. It's not something you just start and finish in one sitting in a few hours. It's a process that takes over time, within sometimes a few weeks. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on how much time you put into it, but it has to be in increments. So in this process, at the end, you earn, when you successfully demonstrate that you built this competency, you earn the micro-credential. So why should you earn it? There are several reasons, and they're listed here. One of them is you are being recognized for your professional learning and you're showcasing your expertise. So a lot of times, for example, let's say as a teacher, you set up great systems and routines. So like after like the first couple of days or the first week of school, all of your students understand the learning culture and expectations in your classroom, and you are able to execute and deliver your lessons with better engagements and attention to students and everything. So a beginning teacher might say, well, my classroom is somewhat chaotic. I'm having a hard time controlling students or managing my classroom or making sure my expectations are getting across to students. So how do you do it? So if you, for example, earn a micro-credential um, that targets that skill, maybe setting high behavioral expectations is actually one of our titles. That's proof that you are an expert in this area and you can be a guide, a mentor, or it can be something that your principal can say, well, Mr. or Mrs. XYZ is so good at this that maybe support you. Or when they see there's a common issue around an instructional expectation in a number of teachers, your school leaders might say, well, maybe we need a short PD, a short professional learning session on this. And knowing that you've actually like earned this micro-credential that aligns to that expectation, they might leverage your expertise, maybe ask you to design and deliver um, a short session like that. So it really opens up opportunities for you to share and showcase your expertise and become a guide, a model for other teachers. Another thing is any teacher, when they earn one micro-credential, it is equivalent to 15 continued professional education hours. So it's called for CPE hours. And what it does is actually when you earn a teacher certification in Texas, I'm sure you all know this, um, you need to renew it like periodically, and one of the renewal requirements is you have to have um, a number of CPE hours documented. So earning a micro-credential, even one micro-credential gets you 15 hours of CPE credits. Now, micro-credentials are self-paced, so they don't actually take 15 hours. On average, they can take, the cumulative time can be like 4 to 6 hours. But the seat time equivalency is 15 hours. So that's why they assign 15 credits. Through the micro-credentials, you actually get to connect with, collaborate, and learn with other educators across Harmony. There's, in the Bloomboard platform, there's a collaborate feature which helps you connect with others, whether they're in the same school or a different school or even a different city across Harmony's network. And oftentimes we also run cohorts of teachers, like we call it success academies, that similar to a virtual PLC, they get together and their learning is facilitated through a micro-credential with a coach, and they also get to collaborate that way too. Perhaps one of the most exciting benefits of a micro-credential is the financial incentives. We used to actually pay teachers a stipend every time they earned a micro-credential. Last year, it was removed from the compensation manual, but this year, starting August 1st, as of next week, it will be added back. So teachers will be eligible to earn stipends, additional money, every time they earn a set of 3 micro-credentials within the same year. So more information will come around that. But so that's just a small token of appreciation. But in the long term, earning micro-credentials makes you stronger candidates for career advancement, because every time there's like a principal or a district leader is looking for maybe assigning a leadership duty to a teacher, or maybe there's a new job opening. Obviously, there are many requirements, but one of the considerations, strong consideration, is has this teacher earned micro-credentials relevant to this role? And because when they earn those micro-credentials, those badges are visible to all of the leaders in the system. So that definitely increases your chances of, if you have aspirations to move up, whether you choose to stay in the classroom and get additional leadership roles, or maybe over time you leave the classroom and take on administrative roles. It doesn't matter. Micro-credentials definitely help your case, and helping those hiring managers strongly consider you, because those are strong indicators of success in those roles. And I think you will also have a session maybe after this around TIA designations, teacher incentive allotments. So that's really exciting. You'll learn more about it. Essentially, when you have like stellar performance in terms of your evaluation scores and your students' performance scores, your students' performance in state assessments or national assessments, the state and Harmony actually awards you designations that can boost your salary or earnings significantly. And what we find, the connection of micro-credentials to those TIA designations is when you earn multiple micro-credentials and make this a habit of continuous learning, you're increasing your teaching game, basically. Your impact as a teacher is growing steadily, and that helps you earn those TIA designations, or maybe increase your level of designation significantly. And what we find is a lot of teachers who get designated have been micro-credential earners and improving their performance over time. So that's a handful of reasons why you should earn a micro-credential. So since we're talking about career pathways, I looked up our compensation manual. There are many opportunities, but I tried to include some of the most available opportunities for teachers, whether it's first year or second year teachers. And I know some of you, even though you are new to Harmony, you probably have a lot more experience in other settings. So this is a list of some of the career pathway roles and how much additional compensation you can earn if you are selected for these roles. And again, the connection of micro-credentials to this is we have micro-credentials aligned to the role expectations of these. And by earning those micro-credentials, or even like any of the our most foundational micro-credentials are called critical teaching competencies, and they're applicable to any teacher in the classroom. Because when we are selecting teachers into either one of these roles, the number one priority is it has to be a teacher with strong teaching performance. Because being a mentor or curriculum writer or PLC leader, you're essentially leading a group of your peers, a group of your other teachers, supporting them. It is a very respectable position, and the teacher in that position has to be a successful teacher with a proven record of high student achievement and growth and strong classroom practice. And again, there is that strong connection to micro-credentials. So let's go down the list. So mentor teacher is one of the early ones. Because Harmony has a lot of innovative programs, when we have a new teacher, even if it is a teacher with maybe 10 years of experience in a different school district, but they are new to Harmony, there's a lot of learning they have to go through because of all the different systems we have at Harmony. So they definitely need a mentor. So it's not just first year career teachers, but any teacher who's new to Harmony oftentimes gets a mentor teacher to really understand the Harmony system and all the expectations and the different programs that we run. So oftentimes when you have multiple years of experience at Harmony, you can be eligible to be a mentor teacher. And how that works is you are assigned one or sometimes two new teachers as your mentees. And you have like maybe weekly or bi-weekly quick check-ins and meetings with them, answer their questions and support them and their journey in adjusting to Harmony. And so those mentor teachers get a stipend of additional $750 for each mentee. It's usually capped at 2, so it could be an added stipend of up to $1,500. And then there's curriculum writers. So when we see teachers are interested in curriculum design, instructional design, we want to value that interest and that strength. Our curriculum is, of course, it's supplemented with like big curricular companies like Pearson, HMA, McGraw-Hill, etc. But a lot of the lesson plans and assessments are designed and created by our own teachers. So we have a large workforce of teacher leaders who serve as curriculum writers. Some writers work throughout the year, linking, getting directives and collaborating with our curriculum coordinators and curriculum directors here at the central office. And some are just recruited during the summer because we have curriculum writing camps in the summer. So typically in the summer, they work sometimes 5 days or 10 days, depending on the need. And there's stipends for it. We're compensating those teachers for their work for writing curriculum or improving. It's not always writing new curriculum from scratch. A lot of times it's revising and improving curricular resources. So that's an additional career pathway role if you're interested in curriculum writing. We also have district PLC leaders. I'm sure you're familiar with PLCs, professional learning communities. So what we try to do is group teachers based on the content that they teach. So for example, if you're teaching 6th grade math, instead of being in a PLC with different math teachers who teach different grade levels, imagine if you're in a PLC group with all of the 6th grade math teachers, because you're teaching the exact same grade level and content area, you're using the same curriculum, you're following the same lesson plans. There's so much to share, learn from each other. So we organize district-wide PLCs. So you might be in a PLC team with all of the 6th grade math teachers or 9th grade English teachers, depending on your area, different teachers from different schools within your region, within your district. There's oftentimes common agendas, common assessments that those teachers follow. So those PLCs are great learning opportunities and really like bouncing off ideas from each other, exchanging strategies on how to best teach a certain lesson or skill or TEKS. So you know how PLCs work most likely, but those PLCs are actually facilitated by typically one of the most skilled and experienced teacher in the group. So that's another opportunity if you're passionate about and your performance improves over time, you can be a strong candidate for becoming a PLC leader and facilitate that. That sometimes it's bi-weekly, sometimes it's monthly. Oftentimes in district PD days, there's longer PLCs instead of just 45 minutes or hour. There's 2-hour, 3-hour PLCs during district PD days. So, and those are typically led by teachers who are recruited into those PLC leader roles, and they're compensated. Typically, it's hourly, and throughout the year, it can be anywhere from 20 hours to 30 hours, and it can add up to almost $1,500 or even more. Department chair is another one. So in our campuses, there is a department chair in charge of every content area. So there's, for example, a math department chair. If you work at a K through 8 campus, for example, all of the math teachers is a math department, obviously, and one of them is chosen as the department chair. Same thing with English, social studies, or science. Sometimes they choose department heads among other teachers, depending on the population too. So that department chair typically gets information and updates regarding curriculum, lesson planning, or just some expectations from the leadership team at the campus. And they meet every now and then, sometimes weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, depending on how the campus leadership sets those meetings. So that department chair kind of facilitates those meetings. And there's a yearly $2,000 stipend for that. So because micro-credentials are so big at Harmony, and we want every teacher to earn like multiple micro-credentials each year, and we don't want this journey to be isolated. You can just work on your own and earn micro-credentials, but that's a little bit harder. But when you work with other fellow educators, it's so much easier. So one of the support systems we created is, because initially after the first few years, we saw that some teachers are really like excelling in earning these micro-credentials. They earn like 4, 5, 6 micro-credentials. We had teachers who earn like 8 micro-credentials within one single year, which is a little too much, but apparently it's doable. So when we see these like early champion teachers, we decided to create a new role, because these teachers can be the best form of support for other teachers, especially new teachers who don't really know much about micro-credentials. They're barely learning, and because navigating through the Bloomboard platform and earning a micro-credential by yourself alone can be a little intimidating. So having a peer that really knows it so well because they've done it like 5 times, 10 times already in the past couple of years, it's so much more helpful. So that's why we created the campus ambassador role. So these are essentially teachers who've already earned like at least 4 or 5 micro-credentials, and they are better positioned to support new teachers with their micro-credentials. So what they do is typically at least once a semester, working with their leadership team, they offer like a mini micro-credential workshop to teachers to really help them understand. What we're doing right now is a very basic intro. So they do more in-depth dive into like micro-credentials, how to start one, how to pick one, how do you progress through and create your artifacts, et cetera, et cetera. So they do those mini workshops at least once a semester. And then they also do work one-on-one, kind of like a peer coach with a teacher. And the way it happens is, if a teacher, by the way, we're not forcing teachers to earn micro-credentials. Our approach is we want to help them understand that there's so many benefits of micro-credentials with learning, improving your practice. There's financial benefits, there's career growth opportunities, and hopefully the teachers see these benefits and feel internally motivated to earn a micro-credential instead of like, I have to do this because they're telling me I have to. No, in fact, if you don't do them, there's not going to be any penalty, but you won't get to experience those benefits. So that's why when there's a micro-credential ambassador at your campus, you can request a match and start working with them one-on-one. And that one-on-one work can feel like maybe you have to just sit down with them for like 30 minutes or an hour, and maybe you'll be done, getting all your questions. And maybe it'll require a series of meetings as you progress through at each step. So maybe you'll have like 2, 3, 4 meetings. Maybe you'll meet with them once a week. So that one-to-one support is really between you and the ambassador, whatever works with both of you. But having that ambassador support helps you earn a lot easier. So this micro-credential ambassador role is another career pathway role. So maybe once you earn multiple micro-credentials in future years, you might be also eligible to become a campus MC ambassador. So when we started this, there was first like 50 ambassadors, but each year it grew. After maybe 3 years, we started having like 150, close to 200 ambassadors. It became so much harder for us to manage the program from the central office. So instead, we decided to create a district MC ambassador position. And that is like among all the MC ambassadors at a district, we tried to pick like one that is like most experienced. And what they do is manage that matching process and also like help support those MC ambassadors. So that's a little bit of an elevated role. They do the same things in addition to the campus MC ambassador. They still do those one-to-one matching and supporting, but they also help manage the match requests and track the data for the campus MC ambassadors. And finally, there's also a model teacher role. This has been introduced actually last year, but we had a similar role for the past almost like 4 years. So model teachers are, at every campus, we have what we call an instructional leadership team. We call short ILT. So ILT, the instructional leadership team, basically it's the principal is the head of the ILT. And then there's the assistant principals or dean of academics, dean of students. So those are right under the principal. They're also part of the ILT because they're still leaders. And then many campuses, not every single one, but most campuses also have an instructional coach. And instructional coaches, they have part-time teaching roles, but in the remaining part-time, they do coach teachers. So those coaches are also part of the ILT. In addition to the administrators and the coaches, we decided to include a few teacher leaders to join the instructional leadership team to become the voice of the other teachers. And also these teachers, they have to be like the most successful, impactful, and respectable teachers on those campuses, because part of their role is going to be, again, serving as a bridge between the leadership and the rest of the teachers, and also like the campus goals and expectations. So ideally, those model teachers exhibit those behaviors and expectations. They model those. So the name model teacher comes from this. We want them to be modeling the desired high leverage strategies to other teachers so that they can learn from them too. So that's how model teacher role has been created. And we have a performance bonus system for instructional leadership teams. So when the school collectively achieves high levels of learning, measured by a number of indicators, but mostly student outcomes, there's also like evaluations and many other indicators. When the school is collectively hitting those performance levels, there are performance bonuses available to the ILT members. So being selected as a model teacher, even though this year there's no direct stipend like these are guaranteed stipends. But with the model teacher, there's no guaranteed stipend. But if you and your school achieves the goals, they can be eligible for a performance bonus. So that and that can be as high as $7,500. So that's why there's a great benefit of being a model teacher. And all of these roles, again, many of them are selected at the campus level by the principal. And the principal a lot of times consults with the ILT team. Some of them are selected by the district leaders, by your superintendent or assistant superintendents, and some are actually selected directly by the central office leaders. And the common ground is for many of these roles, not many, for every single one of these roles, we're looking for impactful and successful teachers. And one of our best criteria for that is have they earned, what micro-credentials have they earned so that there's a strong possibility of success in these roles. Any questions so far? All right, I will continue then. So we have a microsite. It's linked here. It has a lot of information about all of the micro-credential titles, how they're clustered together, and a lot of essential information. So you can check that out later when you get these slides. So that's the microsite. So it could be a good place to stop by and see like what are the micro-credential offerings. And there's also like small descriptions of each, the brief descriptions of each micro-credentials. So maybe like reviewing through them, it can help you decide like which one might be a good starting point for you for your first micro-credential. Okay, so as I said, micro-credentials are quite different. They're new, they're very innovative. So let's dive in and see how they're different. So number one is micro-credentials are job embedded because educators demonstrate competency in a specific skill via classroom practice. Each skill is aligned to research and builds on the Harmony Teacher Evaluation and Support System. That's short for HTES. So there's a framework by Charlotte Danielson, we call it the HTES. It describes teaching levels from like 1 being ineffective all the way up to 4 being highly effective. So every micro-credential we have for teachers are actually aligned to those rubric indicators for the teacher evaluation system. So, and our micro-credentials target key strategies for planning, instruction, fostering high expectations, and all of these can be demonstrated through micro-credentials. So the short definition is they are a digital form of micro-certification earned by demonstrating the competency in a specific skill through classroom practice. It's important to understand what they're not as well as what they are. So to better understand, let's look at some of these. So number one, it's not really like a college course, but it's similar, but it's a lot less like that because it's not time-based and there's no required scope and sequence. So again, you can set your own pace and you can finish it depending on the competency in a week or two, or you can take your time and finish it in 3 months. Because learning the skill is going to take some time. And then for the demonstration, you're going to capture evidence and it may take multiple tries. So the most common progression is you put in maybe about 30 minutes to an hour once a week or multiple times a week, so they can be finished within maybe a month or slightly less or more. It is professional development, but it's not like a PD workshop because again, there's no seat time. You don't have to sit through lectures or videos. There's no substitute requirements. You're not leaving campus, and there's no travel requirement either. And although there's an embedded assessment in each micro-credential, it's not like a traditional test. There's no multiple choice assessment, so it's not measured by just passing an exam. So they're more like a driver's license is a good example because, you know, to get your driver's license, yes, you do pass a test, but they're not going to hand you a license just because you passed the test. You have to learn by practice. And you have to demonstrate that you actually learned how to drive effectively. So there's that performance assessments, just like a micro-credential. And if you consider the pole vault, you just set the bar somewhere that's both attainable for you and also a little bit of an ambitious goal. So the objective is to get clear of the bar using available tools, and you train to clear the bar. If you do it the first try, that means the bar is not high enough. So that's why you have to practice and get to that perfect level. And micro-credentials are a single skill. You know, your certification, for example, includes a lot of different skills. So it's like a certification, but targeting a single skill. So it's allowing you to just distinguish yourself as accomplishing each one of the skills within with each micro-credential. All right, so this slide shows kind of the process for educators as they move through the micro-credential. So the first step in the process is personalizing your own knowledge acquisition. So what that means is you pick a micro-credential. So let's say, again, it's establishing effective systems and routines in the classroom, for example. So you might be, let's say you are a brand new teacher. So you might say, well, I'm new to teaching. I'm not quite confident yet that I can set really effective systems or routines and implement them. So you may need to do a lot more learning, maybe reading some articles, books, go and watch other experienced teachers, maybe watch some videos, go to a workshop. You can do all these things to really like build your knowledge acquisition. Or you could be an experienced teacher, maybe you have 5 years, 10 years of experience, and your classroom management is great. So you might be like, I am an expert already in setting effective systems and routines in my classroom. I don't really need to spend time learning this because I've done that in the past. So you can skip this. So you can spend as little time or as much time as you need um, with personalizing your own knowledge acquisition. So that's the first step. And then in the second one, engaging in facilitated discussion. So this could be, again, within the platform, there's available tools. We call it the collaborates. You can collaborate, you can pin, tag, reach out to like chat with other educators, or you can do it within, it doesn't have to be digital. You can do it in your PLC group. You can do it in a Success Academy when you join one. So just exchanging ideas, discussing techniques to better understand before you move into practice. So because the best way to learn is actually like practice together or learn together with other educators. So the first two parts within this process are completely optional, and it can be tailored to your own expertise. Um, when you get to this part, learn by doing. So this is actually, again, let's go with the example of setting systems and routines. This is something you have to do in the classroom in front of students, right? So you need to learn by doing, meaning you have to try it in the classroom. And oftentimes, as you do this, you're gonna create some evidence, collect some evidence, and most micro-credentials require a short video. It can be a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. In fact, it has to be like under 20 minutes. But depending on the micro-credential, even like a 1 or 2 minute video can do it as long as it covers all of the competency indicators. When you try setting up systems and routines in the classroom, maybe the first time you do it, it's not going to go the way you like. Maybe it's not going to be as effective as you thought it would be. So you can do it 2 times, 3 times. So however many times it takes, it's up to you. And then each time you can kind of film yourself in your classroom and just say whenever you're satisfied with the video, you can say, okay, I'm ready to upload. And then you move on to the upload evidence and receive feedback. And it's not just the video, by the way. There's usually multiple, we call it artifacts, multiple artifacts. So one could be, again, an implementation video. Another one could be maybe you fill out a planning template or answer a series of questions to really understand that you're preparing for this. Or it could be after the implementation, answering some reflection questions to do some sort of self-reflection, how it went, did it go really good, or what could you do to make it better? What can you try next time? Again, depending on the micro-credential, maybe it's a micro-credential that has to do with um, giving feedback to students after an assessment. So for that, you may have to like bring in maybe a few samples of student work, maybe record yourself giving feedback to students, or maybe written feedback. These are all clearly articulated in the micro-credential, like how many artifacts are needed, and what is the requirement for each one. So you're not just making it up as you go. So once you collect all the artifacts, you upload your evidence and artifacts, and you submit. And after you submit, it is assessed. And by the way, the assessment is done by Bloomboard. And Bloomboard, again, they're our external partner. So whatever you submit through Bloomboard, it's not really going to your principal or someone in the district or someone in the central office. Nobody in Harmony sees what you upload, what you submit. Only Bloomboard people see it, and they don't share it with us. But maybe before you submit, if you want some feedback from another fellow teacher, or maybe from your coach or from anyone, you can share them yourself, then they can see it. But if you don't share with anyone, Everything you save and upload in Bloomboard is just between you and the Bloomboard assessors. So that there's strict confidentiality guidelines. So the great thing is, when you submit your portfolio, you get feedback very quickly. It's not, you don't have to wait for like a week or 3 days. A lot of times you get feedback within the next couple hours. Sometimes maybe you get feedback the next day, but it's typically like same day or within the next day. And when your assessment is done, they let you know whether you earned the micro-credential. If you passed all of the checks and the competency indicators, you earn, and that's great. If you don't meet all of the competency indicators, then it comes back and says, you have not yet earned, but here's some feedback. And they might say, like, maybe you submitted 3 pieces of artifacts. They could say, artifact 1 passed, artifact 2 not yet, because, you know, XYZ, you get targeted feedback on why it's not yet meeting the bar, and what can you do to resubmit and pass it the next time. And by the way, when you do this, don't freak out if your first submission isn't, you know, earned, because it's very common. A lot of educators earn it the second time. Sometimes they earn it the third time, the fourth time. There's no limits. You can earn after the 10th submission, or you can earn after the first submission. But so obviously it's frustrating when you submit like 5 times and it's still not earned, and every time you're like fixing something and resubmitting. It can be more time consuming and frustrating. That's totally understandable. So to really minimize that and being successful within the first or the second submission is better, obviously. So to do that, what you can do is, before you start collecting your artifacts or creating your artifacts, especially with the video, like before you video yourself or your classroom, you need to understand, what is the artifact asking? What do I need to do? And also, like within each artifact, there's competency indicators, CIs. So it's telling you, for example, do you have, for example, at least, let's say it's a micro-credential about facilitating classroom discussion. It says, do you have directions provided to the students before you launch the discussion? Do you call on just the volunteers, or do you call on at least 3 students, for example? So if you call, if that's one of the, I'm just making it up right now. If you call on 2 students and the competency indicator says you have to call on at least 3 students, then you know, you're not gonna meet that indicator, and it's not gonna pass, even if the discussion was great. It might say, do you provide feedback to at least, you know, 1 student or 2 students? So you need to read all of those competency indicators and plan accordingly, and make sure you hit all of them. So that way your submissions can be successful in very few attempts, rather than doing it 5 times, 6 times, or 10 times. And at the end, once you earn, you get recognized for your professional learning. And that's how the process goes. So again, the first 2 are totally optional. When you log into the Bloomboard platform, you're going to see the learn stage. So that's actually what the first 2 is. You can engage in those, but you can skip them too. It's up to you. The micro-credential will offer a lot of linked resources, and many of them are Harmony-specific resources. But the learn by doing, that's your practice in the classroom, and then the uploading the evidence, those are the required steps. All right, so here we collected some survey a while back from teachers, like how they feel about micro-credentials. So we just picked a couple of them here. We have overwhelmingly positive feedback. We have some negative feedback too, I will admit. But a lot of times the negative feedback comes from teachers who have not even tried it. They just have this um, prejudice that this is an extra thing and it's going to take a lot of time. I'm already busy and I don't really have time for this. And we understand, we're not arguing. Teachers are busy, they're very busy. You know, the day is very long. There's always dealing with students, parents, grading, meetings, etc. It's a busy job, um, but this is actually helping you get better at your job. And the artifacts that are being asked for any micro-credential, they're not requiring you to just stop what you're doing and do something completely different. You know, as a teacher, you are already doing lesson planning and preparation. You are already, you know, designing assessments, grading papers, giving feedback to students, setting expectations. So everything a great teacher is expected to do, those are kind of organized into these bite-sized skills, into micro-credentials. So what they're asking for is not unrelated to your essential job duties. So in that sense, we feel like it's not a big ask. It doesn't take too much time. And whatever time you spend on it, it's well worth it because it's benefiting you in the long run. All right, I'll wait for like a
Okay.
minute for you to read these. Oh, are we out of time, sir?
Yes, sir. If
Okay, so let me see. I'm almost at the end. The other thing I wanted to talk about in your when you report your campuses, there's going to be more training around arc of the year, instructional expectations. So arc of the year is basically a rubric of strategies expected from teachers, and it looks like this, and it's like it lists expectations of habits from teachers and students, and there's linked resources, and there's also like aligned micro credentials or micro endorsements. So the arc of the year is essentially all of the high impact strategies we want teachers to learn and implement in the classroom, and there's a micro credential aligned to each one of those. So in that sense, by working on micro credentials, you will be exhibiting the desired strategies that your principals and your coaches, your administrators expect from you. So that's pretty much it.
okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Burak.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if you have any
Yeah.
questions, I don't think we have time. I'm happy to answer them, but you can also email me. I will answer them later.
There is one question, I think, in chat box.
Yes, I have asked the question in chat box. Maybe I can ask.
Yes.
Regarding the evidence that we have to upload, does it have to be just either video or filling in the template, or both of them are required?
So each micro credential is different, but many of them require a video. But each one will tell you what you need to do. It'll say artifact one, fill out this form, answer these questions. Artifact two, um, bring a classroom video and make sure you hit these points. So it's like
It
that.
depends. Okay, thank you.
So I don't have time to show you the platform, but on your campus, during your campus training days, there will be trainings. So they'll walk you through the platform. It's Bloomboard. There should be an icon in your My Harmony portal, Bloomboard. You may not have access yet, but I will get the list of all the participants from Mr. Ramazan, and I will request Bloomboard to create accounts for you. So, you know, as early as a couple days from today, you will have accounts. It is a paid platform. It's not free, but Harmony is paying for you, so you don't pay anything. Harmony is paying on behalf of all the teachers. And certificates from edX, we don't when you say accept, so obviously any certificate is good for your development and for your portfolio, but we don't accept them as earned micro-credentials. There could be micro-credentials offered through other platforms, but our micro-credentials in Bloomboard, they are custom designed for Harmony. Most of them are custom designed for Harmony. So if you go and earn micro-credentials from other platforms, other places, maybe edX is giving you certificates, those are not equivalent, and we don't reward or accept them for those purposes. All right, I think those are all the questions. All right, you're mute, Mr. Ashik.
The 5 minutes break, and after that
Okay.
we will come back. See you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes, sir.